Hello. In this video, I will present some further details about coordination and control, and I will introduce the concept of coordination in threes to ensure information system security. The need for greater coordination and control is not simple idle speculation. Coordination and control are necessary if cybersecurity management is to be achieved. Some years ago, Central Intelligence Agency in the US worked rather closely with Saudi Arabia to set up a honeypot. The idea was very simple. It was to attract jihadi sympathizers and to maintain the website as an intelligence gathering tool. By 2008, however, some terror groups were using this very site to infiltrate jihadists into Iraq. Eventually, after extensive coordination between the DoD, CIA, NSA, and other agencies, the site was shut down, much to the dismay of the Saudis, of course. Coordination is central to any human activity and is even more essential given the interconnected world that we live in and the persistent threats that exist. In 1980, Henry Mintzberg published a very interesting article in Management Science. The article was titled "Structures in Fives: A Synthesis of the Research on Organizational Design." Based on extensive review of the design literature, Mintzberg presented a topology of 5 basic configurations. He labeled them simple structure, machine bureaucracy, professional bureaucracy, divisionalized form, and adhocracy. Mintzberg then went on to argue that these configurations had 5 basic parts and 6 mechanisms of coordination and control. The 5 basic parts of the organization include the operating core, the strategic apex, middle line, technostructure, and the support staff. The 6 basic mechanisms of coordination, according to Mintzberg, include mutual adjustment, where coordination of work is made possible by a process of informal communication between people who are conducting interdependent work. Second is direct supervision, where coordination is achieved by one individual taking responsibility for the work of others. Third, standardization of work processes. This is where coordination is made possible by specifying the work content in rules or routines that are to be followed. Coordination occurs before the activity is undertaken. Mintzberg adopted Taylorism, where procedures are usually specified by some sort of a work study analysis. 4 is the standardization of outputs, where coordination is generally obtained by communication and clarification of expected results. The individual actions required to obtain a goal are not prescribed. This goal-setting method is very closely related to what Peter Drucker called management by objectives. The 5th one is standardization of skills and knowledge. This is where coordination is reached through specified and standardized training and education practices. People are trained to know what to expect of each other and coordinate in most automatic kind of a fashion. Then finally, the 6th one is the standardization of norms. This is where norms are standardized, socialization is used to establish common values and belief systems in order for people to work towards common expectations. Mintzberg added this culturally based mechanism at a rather later stage, which was kind of an afterthought of sorts. The question that arises is, why are these coordination mechanisms important to ensure cybersecurity? Well, as is evident from massive failures of security, there is a singular reason that can be identified, and that is lack of coordination in all aspects of cybersecurity management. Every human activity, may it be the making of a needle to the launching of a space shuttle, is realized based on two fundamental requirements. First is coordination and division of labor, and the second is communication. Coordination of various tasks for a purposeful outcome defines the nature of organizations. At the crux of any coordinating activity is communication. Various actors must communicate to coordinate. In some cases, computers can be used to coordinate, which is fine. In other situations, it is perhaps best not to use a computer-based system. At times, coordination can be achieved by establishing formal rules and procedures and policies. In yet other situations, it may be best to informally communicate with other parties. This helps to achieve some kind of a coordination in an informal manner. However, the result of all purposeful communication is coordination of organizational activities to achieve one singular common purpose. Central to any coordination and communication is information. And this is an important aspect. In fact, it is information that holds an organization together. An organization can therefore be really defined as a series of information handling activities. In smaller organizations, it is relatively easy to handle information. However, as organizations grow in size and complexity, information handling becomes even more difficult and cumbersome, and yet increasingly important. No longer can one rely on the informality of roles to get work done. Formal systems have to be designed. These not only preserve the uniformity of action, but also the integrity of information handling. Increase in size of organization also demands that a vast amount of information is systematically stored, released, and collected. There needs to be a mechanism in place to retrieve the right kind of information, besides having an ability to distribute the right information to the right people. Oftentimes, networked computer systems are used to realize information handling. It can therefore be concluded that information handling can be undertaken at three levels. I term them technical, formal, and informal. And the system of handling information at these three levels is really an organization's information system. Now, inspired by the work of Henry Mintzberg, I have argued that cybersecurity in organizations can be conceptualized and managed at three levels. I call this coordination in threes. This is an important element if complete cybersecurity has to be managed within enterprises. The best way to think about coordination in threes is to consider the analogy of a fried egg. At the core is the yolk of an egg, which represents the technical control structures of cybersecurity. Technical access control methods, firewalls, etc. are all important. But one needs to remember that technical controls are defined by the rule structures, by the policies, by the procedures that exist in an organization. This is typically represented by the albumin layer that surrounds the yolk. Finally, the technical and formal control structures reside within a system of obligations. A system that is largely driven by the norms of the organization. A system that relies on the dominant culture of the enterprise. The yolk of an egg, the albumin layer, cannot survive on their own. They have to reside within the white of an egg. Managing cybersecurity, therefore, is akin to managing the integrity of the technical, formal, and informal layers. Or, if I must translate it in terms of my fried egg analogy, good security is like maintaining the integrity of the fried egg. There is a pressing need, therefore, to think about and articulate the concept of coordination in threes for cybersecurity. Different facets of technical, formal, and informal will be discussed in subsequent videos as well. Thank you.